Today, we are diving into a really fascinating and maybe even radical way of looking at reality itself. This comes from the work of Dr. Don Weiss, who argues that the ancient mystical tradition of Kabbalah, well, it isn't just about spirituality. He says it's actually a profound system of philosophy and even science. So, right off the bat, Dr. Weiss makes something crystal clear. This is not your typical mystical exploration. Nope, he's approaching Kabbalah with some serious academic rigor. The real question that's driving him is this: what if this ancient system actually holds a deep truth that could fundamentally inform or maybe even reshape how we think about modern science and philosophy today? All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to try to get the gist of Kabbalah as a system. Then we'll unpack its central, most powerful idea, that reality itself is a dialogue. From there, we'll see how this ancient model surprisingly lines up with some of the spooky discoveries of modern science and how that reframes the whole idea of evolution. And we'll wrap up with a pretty down-to-earth question. What is it that makes a conversation truly meaningful? Okay, so first up, the gist of Kabbalah. And, Dr. Weiss admits this is a huge challenge, right? How do you possibly boil down such a massive, complex tradition? Well, his answer is to focus on one single, crucial idea that underpins the whole thing: the concept of the system. The way he sees it, to understand reality is to understand systems. I mean, think about it. From the tiniest subatomic particles all the way up to incredibly complex beings like us, everything is a system. And these systems aren't just floating around on their own. They're nested inside of and constantly interacting with other systems. This perspective, it's really the bedrock for everything else we're about to build. So if everything is systems, that leads us right to the core of Dr. Weiss's whole argument. If reality is made up of all these systems, Kabbalah offers a really powerful and specific model for understanding how they all work, and that model is dialogue. Now, to get a feel for the kind of thinking we're talking about, Dr. Weiss points to this really familiar symbol. But look closely. The most important detail is that little dot. Each half contains the seed of the other. So this isn't just about two opposites. It's about an inherent, inescapable relationship. You literally can't have one without the other. This captures the absolute essence of a worldview built on interconnectedness. And this idea has a name, a really important one for our discussion today. It's called diallogos. It's a view of the world that says the most fundamental thing about reality isn't matter, it's not energy, it's dialogue, it's conversation. That's a pretty wild idea when you think about it. It suggests that the way two people talk might actually be a better model for understanding physics than imagining billiard balls knocking into each other. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Reality as a conversation, that sounds a little out there, right? But Dr. Weiss points out that science does this all the time. It relies on models to grasp complex things. A classic example is using plumbing to understand electricity. Water flow is like the current, the pressures like voltage. The model isn't perfect, of course, but it was powerful enough to help us build our entire technological world. So the question is, what can the model of dialogue help us build? So let's really break down the difference here, because this is huge. The old mechanical way of seeing things starts with a bunch of simple individual parts, and then you add some external laws to govern them. The diallogos model completely flips that on its head. It says you can't even define an individual part without first understanding its relationships, because those relationships are internal to what it is. It's a fundamental shift that, interestingly, mirrors the leap from classical Newtonian physics to modern quantum physics. Okay, so this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. This is where things get really interesting. Because in the last century or so, science itself has stumbled upon a reality that is, well, just plain spooky. It's a reality that seems to behave a whole lot more like this interconnected dialogos model than that old, comfortable machine. This quote from Dr. Weiss just hits the nail on the head. In other words, nothing gets to just be by itself. To be a thing, anything at all, means you're already caught up or entangled in this massive web of relationships. Your identity isn't just you. It's you in relation to everything else. And Dr. Weiss gives us 3 really solid examples from science where you can see this interconnected reality at play. You've got quantum mechanics, where particles are entangled and show this kind of mutual attunement. You see it even in gravitation, where an object's mass is defined by its relationship to other massive bodies. But for my money, the most mind-blowing example comes from biology. Seriously, just pause and think about this for a second. Every single cell in your body contains the complete genetic blueprint for all of you. The part contains the information of the whole. Why? Why would it do that? Dr. Weiss suggests that the only model that really makes sense of this is to see an organism as a constant, ongoing conversation between all of its parts, where every single cell needs the full script just to know how to play its role correctly. Okay, so let's take this one step further. If reality is a kind of conversation, what's the point of the conversation? Where is it all going? This leads us to the next profound idea, the deep connection between dialogue and evolution. And this is where the idea gets really, really big. Because if dialogue is the right model for everything, from physics to us, then evolution isn't just a theory about biology anymore. It becomes a fundamental property of reality itself. Why? Because a real, genuine dialogue is always an evolutionary process. It has to be. It changes the people in it. Let's actually break down how that works. In any real dialogue, it's not just one person talking and the other listening. Each person is simultaneously influencing the other and being influenced by the other. It's this constant back and forth, this feedback loop. And what's the result? It's not static. It creates change. Both partners develop, they grow. That's evolution, right there, happening on a small scale. All right, so this brings us to a final, and honestly, a super important point. If we're going to use dialogue as our model for all of reality, we've got to be really clear about what we mean. Because let's be real, not all talk is created equal. We have to be able to tell the difference between mere chatter and true dialogue. You know that feeling, right? You have a conversation and it just fizzles out. Nothing really happens. And then you have another one and you walk away feeling energized, like something new was created. What's the difference? According to this diallogos model, the answer is not just about being a good communicator. It's the key to understanding how the universe itself works when it's being most productive. Dr. Weiss draws a really sharp line here. Chatter is superficial. It's just noise. It's repeating opinions you already have, polite but meaningless. Nothing really changes. But a good conversation, that's where the magic happens. It's all about mutual influence. It's a process that actually changes the people involved. It's rare, it's deeply satisfying, and it is fundamentally productive. And that's really the core takeaway from all of this. According to Dr. Weiss's analysis, if reality is one big conversation, its purpose, its ultimate goal, is productive growth. From a cell successfully dividing to two people coming up with a brand new idea, the fundamental process is exactly the same, an interaction that creates something new. So we're going to leave you with this final thought, a question that brings this huge cosmic model right back down to your everyday life. If the entire universe, from quantum particles all the way up to human societies, is one big unfolding evolutionary conversation, what's your role in it? What kind of conversation are you having with the world? And what is it creating?